We talk about underrated games, hidden games, games we think that didn't get enough attention while everybody else focuses on the big AAA releases, the main thing that everybody's playing. Y'all definitely got those on your radar. But I want to talk about a weird little games that are really, really fun. They don't get enough attention. So we got 20 of them for you today, and weirdly enough, I want to talk about turn-based games. This is a mix of everything, but they're all turn-based, so let's get started. Starting off with number 20, it's Chains of Freedom, a game set in a fictional dystopian Eastern European state. This is a real fun turn-based tactical strategy, kind of similar to XCOM. You're leading a military squad and going on missions that are pretty dangerous, dealing with some crazy stuff. And as the game goes on, you're dealing with this deep conspiracy that's threatening your entire nation. The tactical combat is really the meat and potatoes of the game. You're gonna have to be precise every step of the way, every decision matters, how you arm your team, where you position them, what weapons and skills that they have. You can really adapt a lot throughout the game, changing up your team and your tactics. The game's world is, like I said, this fictional Eastern Europe, so it's got interesting and unique environments like creepy military bases and abandoned cities. You'll also find things like a rogue scientist, crazy deadly mind control serums, basically a government collapsing. There's layers to this conspiracy, there's layers to this game, and it's pretty unique, well-made turn-based tactical strategy. Chains of Freedom, it's really a standout title, and hopefully this list gives it some more attention. Coming up next is Our Adventurer Guild. This has been described as if XCOM 2 and D&D had a weird, shy, young, clueless offspring that spent too much time hanging out with 4X strategy people. I know that's a mouthful, but it's definitely a fun roguelike survival strategy RPG with party management. The music is really fantastic. I love the animations. They're really frenetic and kinetic and cool. The gameplay is just really solid. It's just well built from the ground up. It's got a goofy, fun sense of humor as well. It's just a fun game. There's research trees, there's semi-randomized stat level up, this trait system, a bond system that allows the unit to get power up. It's a really cool game just because of all of that. And it really did just fly under the radar. So if you're looking for a super fulfillment game that isn't necessarily that type of a thing in the normal sense of the word, I think you might get a lot out of Our Adventurer Guild. Next, over at number 18, Knights in Tight Spaces is kind of like the sequel to the game, Fights in Tight Spaces, but this time around, instead of one person, you have a party of characters, and while supporting characters were present in Fights in Tight Spaces, this time around, each and every person is going to get a turn. And I have to say, they nailed the auto battle system because that type of game, it's nice to have the auto battle kind of play out. But everybody you play as has got a different fighting style. There's a lot of specials. There's some sort of like punch act finisher type cards that really make you feel pretty good. Honestly, a game I had to mention here because I thought that Fights in Tight Spaces was awesome and Knights in Tight Spaces is way, way deeper. It's technically a better game, even though the more tactical combat style, it's not a big, simple slug your way through. It makes it maybe a little bit less approachable than Fights in Tight Spaces, but if you're like hardcore turn-based, man, Knights in Tight Spaces is awesome. And realistically, I can't talk about Knights in Tight Spaces without also talking about Fights in Tight Spaces. As you can guess from the names, these two games are pretty related, sort of official, unofficial, sequel, they're connected, whatever, they're both good. Fights in Tight Spaces, however, this is turn-based tactical combat, sort of in the vein of Into the Breach mixed with Super Hot. However, there is a deck building aspect, and I cannot stress how well it works. It's not something that I think on paper you go, wow, deck building in a game where you really super punch people. Yes, let me have that, but it's awesome because it's like this strategic placement movement and then adding something to it in the forms of modifying what you can do after any specific action. Really tactical and interesting way of complicating a combat system that is pretty straightforward, not like super simple, but fairly simple, and combining it with something that makes it pretty goddamn addictive. The good thing is that it's a small dev team, they're just telling stories one fight at a time. It's not a big contemplation on anything, nor is enough pretentious art piece. It's just a game where you super punch people in the face and get to actually choose how you do it. At number 16, we have Demeo. This is a great game that came out a while ago in early access, and when it came out, it really didn't get enough attention. It's a tabletop-inspired game that creates these little sort of miniature-oriented battles. It actually has a really cool VR version of the game. It actually works pretty well on a lot of the boarding headsets, and it's crossplay between those headsets and PC. Frankly, it's just a solid D&D light adventure. It's designed to be something you do with some friends, and I don't mean to make too simple of a comparison here, but it's kind of like playing D&D with friends, except for It's actually a real video game. It's kind of closer to a game board, but I mean, in a way that makes sense. It's the problem with sort of the board game style games is that the game board's just a visual representation that you then just use to either keep score or amuse yourself. In Demeo, they've kind of made the game board the game, and it's now out in full, so definitely give Demeo a shot. It's an awesome game. At number 15 is Lords of Ravage, a dark fantasy tactical RPG with some roguelite elements. You lead an army of followers as one of the Lords of Ravage. You can choose your tactics to enslave the land and destroy your enemies. It's got a really unique art style. Maybe it's not something that's completely necessarily out of this world, but it does give the game a little something that fits its unique premise very well, I think. You're not doing the same crap you do in every other RPG. You're actually given some non-standard RPG situations. So in a lot of ways, it feels very different, very fresh, very good. Lords of Ravage is one of those games that I think probably could be a much bigger game if it were splashier, but it is one of those things that's just small and good and frankly worth playing. Highly recommended in my opinion. Over at number 14 is Warhammer 40k Battlesector. Warhammer obviously is kind of a big franchise, but not every game in the franchise shares the same level of popularity. Battlesector is, at this point, one of the older games, obviously not compared to a few things out there, but it is sort of a shame because the sheer number of features the game offers, really no other reason than it has tactical battles that are a hell of a lot of fun. You can pause the battle in order to reassess your tactics and change the course if you want. It's got this really good matchmaking system. I know a lot of people are kind of like, I'm not on my socks on, but if there's a good matchmaking system in what is a good tactical game, that adds a lot of value to the game, in my opinion. And although it's kind of a no-brainer for Warhammer 40k fans, it's a game that's a good recommendation for anyone, especially people who like a battle that's a little bit bigger in terms of what you're strategizing and planning for. At number 13, we have Lost Eidolons, Veil of the Witch, a tactical roguelike from the world of Lost Eidolons. Not exactly something that you would particularly expect to look like this, but it's a tactical roguelike RPG where death is just the beginning. After a shipwreck, you end up striking a deal with a mysterious witch for another chance, and then get stuck on a cursed island where you recruit a bunch of allies and build a squad of 5 from 9 different, very versed characters, and every run kind of attempts you to put together something a little bit different if you want to win. Obviously, true to the genre, no 2 runs are ever going to be the same, and what's nice with it is the hint of roguelike gives it kind of a replayability. It allows you to stick to it and not get bored. It's definitely a little jank in comparison to certain other games, but that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world. And if you're into tactical games, this is one you're definitely going to want to at least check out. I recommend giving this one a shot. It's actually a really fun game. At number 12, we have The Troop, a game where you follow the campaign of British and Canadian forces as they face the German Heer and SS in Normandy. There's infantry, motorized, and armored units in the whole shebang. It's fairly accessible, though it doesn't sacrifice on detail for that. It's just really a very well-balanced tactical sim. The AI is really good in it too. It will challenge you, it's typically unpredictable, and you end up feeling like you accomplished something if you beat your best at it. I would call this game fun, challenging, and interesting. It does put you in the role of the kind of units you wouldn't necessarily perhaps gravitate towards, but I think that's definitely more of a plus than a minus with this one, because you end up learning about a lot of stuff as well as having fun, so that's always good. So yeah, make sure to check this one out. Coming up next at number 11, we've got Heroes Adventure Road to Passion. This is a really interesting looking game. You end up like sort of muddying through the Jianghu as an underdog in this vibrant world full of martial artists. And there are a lot of choices as to exactly how you navigate everything. It's really a pretty thrilling looking game and very different. It's something where you recruit a lot of people to do a whole lot of different things. And the unpredictability of the game is one of its strangest. Believe me, man, there are a lot of things that you can encounter that are pretty different, and that unpredictability is one of the reasons it's really interesting. The art style is going to be a turnoff maybe to some people, but honestly, I kind of dig it. It's just a sort of ugly, chibi weirdness that I think fits. It's a cool game, well worth your time. At number 10, we have Wander Stars, which is a game where you play as Ringo and you are looking for your brother, and to that end, you join forces with somebody named Wolf who's running from his past. You may or may not imagine that getting along with him is going to be part of the plot here. Wolf is also a trained martial artist. These two go off and they have a bunch of crazy battles, but it's also funny. The word I would use to describe Wander Stars is whimsical. It is a whimsical little game that's fun as hell, though. The battles are really interesting. They utilize a pretty bizarre mixture of concepts that, when combined, actually create something that's very accessible and a lot of fun. They took a lot of seemingly disparate ideas and do something pretty interesting with them. Not necessarily innovative or new, but innovative in the sense that we're kind of putting them together in that way, and that's more often than not what actual innovation is. It's a great game that uses a lot of different things from different genres in order to create just kind of a smooth, good little game here. Anyway, at number 9 is Class of Heroes 3 Remaster. This is the third entry in the Class of Heroes series, obviously, and is the entry that never actually came to the West, which is kind of sad. The other ones did, so if you're a Class of Heroes fan and have played relatively recent entries in the series, let's say, I mean, the game we're talking about originally came out 15 years ago, so that's not all that recent, but if you had fun with them, I don't know what about them would stop you from having fun with Class of Heroes 3. It's a dungeon crawling game. It's a relaxing game. It has a great gameplay loop that it is a great example of kind of why the genre doesn't change that much. Above the game just retains the history quality in the field to it. You can't really just rush through it. They do a good job of sucking you in, keeping you into it. And that, overall, it's just a very quality remaster. Like I said, if you're a fan of the series, it's something you probably ought to play. And if you're not familiar, though, it's actually a great entry into the series because it is such a prime example of it. Next on the list at number 8, we have Skygard Arena, a turn-based tactics game that gives you a strong single-player campaign as well as a multiplayer PvP option. And even some kind of cool multiplayer stuff that doesn't feel too stingy. I'm not going to spoil anything if you don't wanna. The real focus of the game, however, is smart positioning and smart ability combos, moving your champions to victory as you go along. The campaign is extremely tactical, so it's not boring for a single second. And even in the multiplayer, you have to think. This isn't the type of game where you're just doing things. You're actually thinking. I think it's a well-balanced game. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it also looks cool. Like, it's not the biggest graphics showcase in the universe, but the style kind of bleeds through everything, and you don't feel like this is just a slapped-together game. It feels premium, even though it's not a big, giant AAA game. So yeah, Skygard Arena is something I really recommend. Over at number 7, we have For the King 2, which is a procedurally generated sort of rogue-like style game, a turn-based tactical combat that owes at least a little bit to heroic fantasy, though. It's not totally avoiding being its own thing. What's interesting when I said procedural generation earlier is that it's heavily board game influenced. You have the square and you have in battles and stuff. It's really able to do a lot of different things, and exploring For the King too, like you can have up to 4 people in a party, and really works great with a group of friends because you can all contribute to a strategy, you can all work as a team and be a party. It's one of the best recent digital board game type games out there, and it's well worth your time because frankly, it's just, there's endless entertainment in that kind of thing, and it's got a cool style. It's got a lot of interesting decisions that have been made regarding both that style and the gameplay. I'm a big fan of it. I think you will be too. At number 6, we have Dice Gambit, a game that at first glance gives you kind of an XCOM energy. However, it really does play very differently once you play it. Like, yes, it's a tactical hex-based game, blah, 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 but there's sort of family system, the actual use of the dice. And when I say the use of dice, I really mean the use of dice. Like, everything is really driven by the tactical choices the dice give you, rather than like, that's a percent chance stuff. Like in XCOM, sometimes you could be like, I'm gonna shoot that dude, and it's like you have a 50-50 chance of hitting him, and you miss twice in a row, and that sucks. But in this game, the dice tell you what option you have rather than what percentage chance an option will work. So it really depends on kinda if you're into a game that's rigidly set from the beginning of the round, what you're gonna be doing in that round, or if you're the type of person who's like, well, I'm gonna shoot at him, I'd like to shoot at him. It's just a different sort of way of approaching everything. I think it's interesting, and I think the family system really works in tandem with it. It's its own interesting structure, like a very different way of doing an XCOM-like game. This is different from XCOM, but again, kind of give you that vibe. Highly recommend it as well. At number 5, we have No Plan B, a tactical top-down shooter, and the way this game works is what makes it so interesting in my opinion. Rather than control a character directly, you stay in the planning room and decide what happens and how things work. Obviously, you have to work with recon, information regarding enemies, etc., but what you do is you plan a mission and then you watch it as the mission unfolds. Like, you don't directly do the thing, but it's a very interesting game, and it feels a little bit like watching an action film unfold, only you decided what the coordination was, and that's great, right? There's a prologue demo that's available if you're interested in checking it out, and if the idea sounds cool, I think you should. It's one of those games that knows exactly what it is and doesn't try to go overboard on it. I think that makes it more fun ultimately. Coming in at number 4, we have Arhaekon, a grim, dark tactical RPG that combines brutal turn-based combat with an oppressive atmosphere and, well, city building. That's kind of the wrong word, but you have to build your camp up and sort of empire build your camp. It's not really that big of an empire, at least from what I played, but it's kind of cool. The procedurally generated dungeons, the branching narrative choices, and the tight mechanics of combat are really the things about the game that keep me going back to it. I also really like the world building. I think that's a pretty big strength of the game as well, and honestly, I think the art style's gorgeous. I know it's hit and miss for some people, but for me, it's a hit. This is a great game. Absolutely great game. If you're not bothered by maybe a little too much difficulty at certain points, then go for it. Otherwise, you maybe do want to be careful because there is some spikes in difficulty, but I really like this game a lot. Next on the list, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tactical Takedown. This is the first ever turn-based Teenage Ninja Turtles game. It's kind of hard to believe just cause of the combination of words, but it's easy to believe given that I don't think there's ever really been one. And if there has, it's obviously something that I don't really know about. It's definitely taking the Turtles in a bit of a new direction, which I think is a good thing. Like, it's a good direction in my opinion. The old version of the Turtles is great. All versions of the Turtles are great as far as I'm concerned, but I like the direction. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's more of a narrative game, not like a big narrative game, but they do definitely make an effort a little more than maybe you would expect from a cartoon tie-in, and they do a great job with it. And it does give you a little bit of a different perspective on some of the characters, which I think is great. The turn-based, arena-based combat is great, and the art style is kind of gleaning in the right way for Turtles. It's a great game. Like, if you like tactical stuff, it's definitely worth it. Frankly, if you like Turtles, you probably want to play it. At number 2, we have Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven. This is a full remake of 1993 Romancing Saga 2 in the Ground. The Saga series, in my opinion, is one of the great JRPG series, and Romancing Saga 2 is one of the gray entries in the series. And having ground up really good, new, fun-looking version of the game is one hell of an awesome idea. The gameplay and the story have held up very well, but the graphics are obviously extremely far behind on the old version. This completely fixes that and retains the absolutely amazing world of Romancing Saga 2. If you are an old-time JRPG fan like I am, you're gonna love this remake. If you don't know what Romancing Saga 2 is, but you like games like Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, etc., you are gonna love this remake. It is a classic among classics remake, and I highly recommend it. And finally, at number 1, we have Cybernight's Flashpoint. This is a modern tactical RPG with gridless movement, things to hide behind for cover, specialized Overwatch, initiative, a lot of different things that make the game tactical in a good way. But what really sets this game apart is the ability to do stealth missions in this game. You can either go stealthy or you can alert people. And if you alert everybody, it's damage control. But if you do stealth, you might be able to avoid a few conflicts and choose exactly what happens. The combat itself is in-depth and challenging, but also rewards extremes. Either extremely careful or extremely reckless play does get rewarded, which I think is a really great thing. It fits with the whole stealth thing, because again, you can do stealth, but you're not required to do stealth, and I just love a game that lets you immerse yourself by being really careful, or immersion by attempting to be reckless and see how things go. Both of those playstyles work in the sense that you're kind of role-playing a carelessness or a carefulness, and it just works really well. This is a game you absolutely have to play. But those are 20 underrated, cool little turn-based games you might have missed. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's the time to do it. So click subscribe, don't forget to enable notifications, and as always, we thank you very much for watching this video.